Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're going to totally strip away the magic, the hype, and honestly, the fear surrounding artificial intelligence. Instead of looking at AI through that typical sci-fi lens, we're taking a completely different route. We're using the rigorous materialist philosophy of Gustavo Bueno, based on Carlos M. Madrid Casado's deep dive into the subject. We're getting to the bottom of what AI actually is, not just what Silicon Valley wants us to think it is.
Now, Gustavo Bueno immediately grounds our entire conversation right here. He doesn't start off talking about souls or consciousness or some mystical digital spirit. No, he starts with biology and physics. A computer, no matter how blazingly fast it calculates, just can't be a human person simply because, well, it lacks a physical human body. This physical material reality, that's going to be our anchor for everything we talk about today.
To make this philosophical journey really approachable, we've broken it down into 5 key areas. 1. The myth of AI. 2. Science or technology. 3. AI versus biological intelligence. 4. The human body is essential. And finally, 5. The singularity as a religion.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the myth of AI. Think about the stories we constantly tell ourselves. From Asimov's robots to HAL 9000 or, the Terminator, science fiction and tech CEOs absolutely love to portray AI as either this looming apocalypse that's going to wipe us out or this utopian superintelligence that'll save us all. But here's the thing. This dramatic framework, it's actually blinding us. It completely distracts us from seeing the reality of the technology sitting right in front of us on our desks.
The hype machine is incredibly loud right now. You've got figures like Ray Kurzweil, Elon Musk, and Nick Bostrom pushing this almost eschatological narrative of an inevitable, highly dangerous superintelligence. They're telling us that within just a few decades, humanity is going to have to physically merge with machines or will just become totally obsolete. But taking a materialist approach asks us to just hit pause for a second and look really closely at the actual definitions of what we're building.
Which brings us to Section 2, Science or Technology. Let's cut through the hype.
To really get this, we have to ask, what exactly is the status of AI? The theory of categorical closure makes a really critical distinction here. Science, like pure mathematics, seeks objective truths, where the human subject is totally neutralized. Right? The Pythagorean theorem is true no matter who calculates it. But technology? Technology is built by humans for very specific practical ends. So, AI isn't some universal science discovering profound truths about the universe. It's a technology, and it's strictly oriented toward practical, human-defined goals.
In fact, AI isn't even one single thing. It's actually a whole plurality of technologies mashed together. It relies on actual sciences, like math and statistics, to do massive volume-driven data processing. Sure, it borrows some inspiration from biology and neuroscience, but at its core, it uses logic and computing to execute tasks. It's a complex intersection of tools, not a standalone scientific truth.
And this actually leads to a pretty great inside joke among programmers that the author points out. It goes like this. When you're raising funds for your startup, you call it artificial intelligence. When you're hiring, you call it machine learning. But when you're actually sitting down and implementing it, it's literally just linear regression. At the end of the day, it's a massive, incredibly complex statistical calculator wrapped up in brilliant marketing.
Let's move into Section 3, AI versus biological intelligence. Are we really just building digital brains? You will constantly hear tech leaders argue that the brain is just, meat hardware and the mind is just software. To them, whether intelligence runs on carbon atoms in a biological brain or silicon atoms in a microchip just doesn't matter. But the materialist framework completely rejects this. It argues that this is a total metaphysical illusion. Treating the mind as floating software that you can just disconnect from a body is really just 17th century Cartesian dualism dressed up in modern tech jargon. True intelligence literally cannot be disembodied. And the difference in how we actually reason is staggering. While an advanced AI neural network needs millions of tagged images of a cat just to learn how to recognize one, a human toddler uses what we call abductive reasoning. A toddler can look at a single cat just one time and instantly grasp the general concept of what a cat is. There's a great Latin phrase for this, intelligenti pauca. To the intelligent, few words are needed. AI completely lacks this capability. It is entirely a slave to the sheer volume of its training data.
This leads right into Section 4. The human body is essential.
In this materialist framework, a grounded, physical human operator is absolutely central. The crucial takeaway here is that genuine intelligence requires hands, it requires senses, and it requires physical interaction with the world. Intelligence isn't just something that magically happens inside a dark, isolated skull. It is an active, physical engagement with the material environment around us.
So we really have to ask ourselves this profound question. Can there truly be intelligence without hands? If you completely take away the ability to manipulate objects, to build tools, to feel textures, to physically assemble the world, do you still even have an intellect?
The ancient Greek philosopher Anaxagoras hit the nail on the head centuries ago when he noted that human rationality is inextricably linked to our hands. We learn by grabbing things, by pulling them apart, and by putting them back together. Our logic and our language are fundamentally rooted in our bodily operations. A server rack sitting quietly in a super-cool data center has absolutely none of this physical, worldly context.
And what's incredibly fascinating is this. Human intelligence itself is already kind of artificial. We aren't just brains in jars. Our intelligence is constantly extended out into the physical world through our tools, our written language, tables, institutions. When you write a complex math problem down on a piece of paper to solve it, that paper literally becomes part of your thinking process. Because of this, the materialist perspective argues there is just as much artificial intelligence embedded in a printed math textbook as there is in ChatGPT.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, the singularity as a religion. The author brings in Gustavo Bueno's concept of an aureolar idea. Think of classical paintings where a saint is depicted with a glowing halo, right? That halo represents a future, divine state that justifies whatever the saint is doing in the present. Well, the so-called singularity acts precisely the same way. It isn't a scientific fact. It's a religious halo placed on current tech industry developments to justify a mythical, predetermined, and, let's be real, highly profitable future.
It's actually wild when you map it out. The professionals of Silicon Valley are essentially acting like modern theologians. They're out there preaching a techno-apocalypse where the singularity is judgment day, tech CEOs are the chosen prophets, and artificial general intelligence is this all-knowing deity. It is quite literally a modern mythology, just cloaked in computer code.
But the real problem with obsessing over this myth is that it's a massive distraction. By worrying about some mythical, super-intelligent god terminating humanity, we are completely ignoring the very real, very mundane problems that current, mediocre AI creates right now. As researchers point out, we need to be focusing on the invasion of privacy, algorithmic bias, the flood of deepfakes, and massive copyright issues. These are human problems caused by human-made tools.
It is absolutely critical to remember this. Machines do not have problems. They don't have desires, and they certainly don't have ethics. As the philosopher Alfredo Marcos points out, the intelligent part of an AI system is the human user and the programmer. The artificial part of the system is simply not intelligent. If an AI makes a mistake or causes harm, it is a human who holds the moral and legal responsibility. Every single time. Ultimately, the materialist framework completely grounds AI. It strips the technology of its magical aura. It reminds us that algorithms are not some new, disembodied species. They are simply highly advanced, incredibly fast sets of tools that are operated by human hands serving human purposes. Intelligence has always been and will remain profoundly, physically human. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Next time you're scrolling through the tech news, as we build these ever more advanced and astonishing tools, are we actually creating life? Or are we simply confusing incredibly complex calculators with the messy, embodied reality of genuine human life? Thanks for exploring this explainer with me, and definitely keep questioning what you see.